Hey everyone, it's Ivan, keepatcher.com, here today to share why I'm no longer going to be on Instagram and Facebook for the foreseeable future. So, why? Context is important, right? And as a quick aside, sorry about the mood lighting, pretty much lost the light, don't really have time or want to start a fire right now before I got to ski out of here tonight. So, as to the why, well, multifaceted. We'll start with terms of service. Instagram's new terms of service, I would encourage you to agree with them, or not agree with them. I would encourage you to read them, because by virtue of using the app, you therefore agree to their terms of service. And I think they're incredibly egregious with respect to basically personal privacy, massive invasion. So what does it say? One, camera. The camera, not like photos, but the camera. So think of someone looking through your camera when you aren't actively using it. Yeah, they have access to that. Same thing with a microphone. Someone listening when you maybe don't want them to be listening. They have access to that. Location data. Someone knowing where you are, whether you want them to or not. Not to mention pretty much carte blanche, any information on your phone. They have access to that. In addition to the network that you're on, and in addition to that, basically nearby devices. It's written as basically a open door to pretty much whatever they want whatsoever. And by using the app, you agree to that. I take issue with that. I'm sure some of you are like, well, is it really that big of a deal? Like, you're always sharing stuff on, was sharing stuff on Instagram, or you're always making videos, sharing those, things like that. Yes, I do. And I consciously and actively curate what I chose to share with you. Just like everyone in their individual lives, whether you recognize it or not, consciously choose what you choose to share with someone with respect to privacy. There are certain things maybe you will share with your parents. Other things you will not. Some things you will share with some of your closest friends. Some stuff you'll share with anyone because you don't really care at the end of the day, right? That's everyone, to include me. I want to curate that. I'm in charge of my life, and I choose to continue to be in charge of it, to include basically all that, what is personal and what I choose to share as public. The way their terms of service are written, basically, they have access to everything. I'm not okay with that. I value my privacy, and I would encourage you to value and respect your own privacy. Why are they doing that? Well, the most benign reason is so that they can basically package and sell your data to companies, so they can turn around and sell you products that are basically tailor-made for you based on all the data they scraped from your life. No, hard pass. One, I don't want to buy your crap. Two, I don't really want you making money on my data. And that's the way, honest, most of these tech companies work. To create a business, there needs to be an exchange of value. So you're doing this, and then I will pay you for said service. Some sort of exchange. To that end, there's zero exchange on Instagram. I get nothing from that. Oh, cool, I share some photos, maybe, you know what, honestly, maybe it helps some people, just something, maybe give someone a little kick in the ass, a little bit of motivation. That's awesome, I'm glad, but that's not a fair exchange of value for me. The invasion of my privacy and selling that data. No, I'm not okay with that. That is the absolute most benign use of that data that can possibly happen. Is that most benign use the only use that's going to happen with your data? Hard to say. Not really willing to gamble on it. To that end, what have I done? Well, I tried to figure out a workaround. For about a week or so, I used a dark vault by Theorem. Essentially, it is a little Faraday cage, and you can put a phone in it. Basically, kill signal. So no GPS, no cell signal, any of that stuff. Pretty handy. But again, just really a short-term stopgap. So what would happen? I would take photos with my phone, And after I took those photos, I would turn around and take the phone out of the dark vault, turn it on, airdrop to that phone, which actually had the app because I had taken it off my real phone that I carry around with me, throw my real phone into the dark vault, close that, use that phone now, post those pictures, power that down, pull my phone out, put that back in the dark vault, close the dark vault, go back to my life. No, that's ridiculous, right? Like way too much involved. And again, what am I getting out of Instagram or Facebook for that matter? Nothing. Like nothing of value. Now on the other side, what about Google and YouTube? Like kind of egregious stuff sometimes over there. I would agree. I disagree with a lot of their policies. But again, there's an exchange of value. I'm able to create content that is valuable for my audience. It's also valuable to YouTube because they sell ads on my content, and it's valuable for me because I get some revenue from that as well. Like it's an exchange of value. I will say as soon as there is a viable option other than YouTube, I'll be gone from YouTube because again, right now it's fair exchange of value. Well, I wouldn't even say fair exchange, but there is an exchange of value there. As soon as there is not, I won't be there. Or as soon as there is something better, I won't be there. But at the end of the day, I'm a content creator and I have to go where the attention is. What about Instagram? There's a lot of attention there. I would agree. There is a lot of attention there. But with respect to my personal privacy and the violation thereof, I'm not okay with that. Like, yeah, I tried that workaround. What's another workaround? I could basically hire someone else to run that account for me and send them photos and captions and be like, hey, post this, and let them deal with the violation of their personal privacy. No, I don't want to do it. Again, I don't have value there, so I'm choosing not to do business with them. Like, I do not want them to sell my information, and I don't want to give up my privacy. Done. But again, multifaceted. On top of the egregious terms of service, of late, as of filming this, I think we're looking at like January 10th. There's some crazy stuff that happened with like big tech in general, to include Instagram and Facebook, Mark Zuckerberg. And that is basically them trying to shut down, or shutting down, at least temporarily, Parler. What is Parler? If you're unfamiliar, it is basically a platform for free speech, which I think is great. I'm a huge proponent of free speech. And not only is it the First Amendment, obviously one of the most important things, number one in our founding documents, but no, like that is the bedrock of society right there. Basically discourse. And Parler, basically arguably the last bastion of free speech, got canceled. And I'm sure they'll get it back up and they'll get it going again. But I think as of midnight tonight, the 10th, they're cutting it off. And there was a lot of collusion from a lot of different companies, to include Instagram. In part because, one, it was competition. They don't like competition. There are basically just a couple things, right? You have YouTube, and you have Instagram, and you have Facebook, and you have Twitter, and you have Google. Like, those are behemoths. What else is even coming close? Nothing. And that's part of the reason why pretty much all those guys are getting slammed with antitrust suits, because they buy up other companies that would potentially end up competing for their market, and then they either trash them or they turn them into their own thing. That's how that's been working. So here you have Parler that, one, basically showed itself as potential competition. So everyone wanted to stomp that out. In addition to that, it was basically a platform for free speech. And I think a lot of people were angry and frightened about that. I will say, because of the way Instagram has basically been run, Parler itself probably initially kind of turned into an echo chamber, because you had a number of people that were silenced off of these, we use the word platform loosely when we talk about Instagram and Twitter, but they were basically silenced from these platforms and they ended up migrating over there. A lot of people, a lot of them are right-leaning, a lot of them are libertarian-leaning. So yeah, kind of created an echo chamber over there. But what I am seeing from the outside looking in is everything else, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, creating their own echo chamber leaning to the left side of the dichotomy. Statement of fact, not a judgment. Although I will say any echo chamber is bad. Why is it bad? Because ultimately it drives everyone to the sharpest point in the edges of the dichotomy. That's where it goes. The way the algorithm works on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all those things is they're all vying for your attention because that's the commodity is you and your attention. I recognize that. Same with me. I create content to be consumed. Most of it revolves around creating content like gear reviews on stuff, which hopefully will be valuable for you and worth your time, not just like entertainment or just going down the rabbit hole of like, is the earth flat? It's not. But basically all these things are vying for your attention. And with that, they're going to continue to feed you things that is basically going to keep you engaged. Usually it's things that's going to make you angry because that is going to keep the most engagement. And so they continually driving people to both ends of the spectrum in the dichotomy, arguable false dichotomy. Keep pushing people towards it. And you have places like Instagram actively basically creating a dichotomy, pushing people towards the left and censoring and silencing people. Yes, I recognize Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, yeah, private companies, do what you want. That is fine. I also recognize in the same breath that those platforms are basically working under the protection that are provided for platforms, but they're operating in a way that is a publisher. What does that mean? It's a big difference. Platforms, basically, it's like, cool, like, come do you. Freedom of speech, do your thing. Platforms. And with that, there's all kinds of protections given to them, which they happen to be hiding behind, but they're operating as a publisher. A publisher means they're actually responsible for the stuff that goes on there, which means they can censor and do all these things, because the minute that flips and they're no longer allowed the protections of being a platform, they're going to get a million lawsuits because they are and have been acting as publishers, which makes them liable for the stuff that they actually allow on there versus a platform. So hiding behind the protections of a platform, even though they're acting like a publisher, which that unto itself is pretty disingenuous and yeah, not good people. Like genuinely not good people, I think, at the heart of it. And again, it's all the censoring and things like that. And people see things and they're like, I disagree with that. I don't want to see that. That person should be banned and blocked. Like, no, there's literally like one cure for bad speech and bad ideas. And that's good speech and good ideas. And you need a place for discourse, a place for that to happen. Like that has to happen. If you don't allow that, then it just festers and it turns into resentment and everything else. And it gets really, really dark if you take away people's voice, which is what's happening. The biggest way to get rid of those bad ideas and like racism, like all these other things, is actually like bring it to light. A lot of people forget ACLU, like they fought so that the Nazis could have their parade, right? ACLU fought for the Nazis to have their parade. Why? Because it's important that they had their freedom of expression, because everyone knows, people probably don't know. So if you don't know, the pendulum can swing the other way. And so the important part is that everyone has the opportunity to express themselves if they want, whether their ideas are good or bad. And in that discourse, good ideas end up floating and bad ideas sink down. And it is through those interactions that, you get rid of those bad ideas. You get rid of like stupid stuff like racism. Like that stuff goes away with good discourse. It does. Like it ends up going away. And you're like, well, okay, yeah, that person's a jerk. They're going to be a racist. But you know how they're going to really be a racist is when they're secluded from everyone and they don't have the opportunity to actually interact and ultimately, hopefully, have a positive interaction with someone of another race. And right now, you're thinking of white people that are racist. Spoiler, like anyone can be racist across the board. So there's that. Racism is bad regardless of where it's coming from. And through these interactions, you end up getting rid of it. Discourse is so incredibly important. Think about it on like a micro, on a personal level. You'll have an idea and you'll be like, hey, can I run this by you? And if you have a good friend, occasionally they're like, that's a stupid idea. You're like, all right, that is a stupid idea. Well, macro. You get a bunch of people with stupid ideas and no one telling them that that's a stupid idea, and it just goes to the extreme. And again, echo chamber, straight to the edges of the dichotomy. Nothing good will come from that. Nothing whatsoever. So why are we in this unfortunate place right now? I don't have the answer because it's incredibly complicated, but I have a pretty good idea of some of the reasons why we are. First and foremost, I'm sorry, as much as Americans love to think of themselves as informed and intelligent, fucking intellectually lazy. Sorry, not sorry. 100%. People get so wrapped up in their beliefs. Don't get me wrong, beliefs are good. Often reserved for religion or maybe a couple like pillars of your core being. Hills you would die on. Yes, I have beliefs. I have hills I would figuratively or literally die on. Those are important to me. But the vast amount of things in this world, I don't hang on to beliefs about that stuff. I have thoughts, but again, most people don't have thoughts. They just have their beliefs. And if you start talking to someone, even if it's their belief, and you're like, okay, like, why do you think that? Can you articulate why you think that? Most people can't. Or if they're honest with themselves and they start kind of going through and they're like, well, yeah, I guess I read it on the news. I guess I saw someone say it. Sounded good. These other people, they think it too. Like, we now believe it together. No, that's not a thing. Like, and that creates serious problems because beliefs are incredibly hard to change. Thoughts basically speak to people's ability to not be intellectually lazy and actually think and reason through things. And like, okay, well, cool, present your case. Like, glad to hear it. All right, like, you know what? All right, I'm not married to this belief. I have these thoughts, and if you can present something in a way that for me logically makes sense, cool. Like, I just changed I now think differently on that. I have different thoughts on that subject now. But people are blinded with beliefs about things that no business having holding a belief over. And it's like, I believe, like, okay, would you die for that belief? You're like, yes, no, knife to your throat. Would you die for that? Like, that should be the metric. Be like, okay, I believe in this. So I'm up against a wall. There's a firing squad in front of me. If you say, hey, no, I don't believe in this. Like, all right, cool, you get to walk away. Or do you believe in that? If your life was on the line, do you actually believe in that? if you're honest with yourself, there's probably very few things you actually believe in, really and truly, which as it should be. Thoughts. Damn intellectual laziness. People choose not to think through things, and they surround themselves with beliefs, most of the times false, but because it's a belief, it can no longer be challenged. Now frees you up because you obviously don't have to think. You can keep being intellectually lazy, and now you just protect yourself with all your beliefs and hang out with everyone else with the same beliefs. Cool. That's where we are right now. Incredibly divided because of intellectual laziness. And I'm sure a whole slew of other things, but I think that is first and foremost among some of the issues that's happening right now. This has been long, and I don't know, didn't mean for it to be a rant. I don't know that it's a rant. Maybe a little bit. It's frustrating for me. Like, I trying to do the best I can, like, in this life, trying to do a good job for my boys, be a good parent, and like watching things fall apart, and people that would otherwise, like, you get them alone in a room and, oh, cool, like, you like that? So do I. Like, oh, you like drinking water? No way, like, me too. Like, so many things in common. And then you throw a couple whatever issues, and it's like, these are my beliefs, you cannot challenge them, I will die on that hill. Granted, when push really comes to shove, like, no, you won't. But you're intellectually lazy, so you refuse to actually, like, work through those steps to find out what you actually think about something. No, like, intellectual laziness. Or, who knows, maybe you'll actually work through all those things and you'll be like, I see all the facts point over here, but I feel this way. All right, cool, man. Like, have your feelings, just don't mistake feeling for belief or for thoughts, for that matter. You can feel that, like, that's cool. I don't know, who knows? Maybe feelings can be all three, but if it doesn't stack up with logic and facts, and you still want that, like, we'll call it a feeling, that's cool. It's frustrating because everything is so incredibly divided, and you see people in headlines and people cheering because, hey, like, Parler got taken down, like, that'll get rid of all those hateful. No, that'll make even more hateful people, because at the end of the day, you need to have discourse. You need to have places where ideas can be challenged. But again, part of that is reliant on the group as a whole, willingness to actually think through things. And if it's going to be nothing but people cemented in with intellectual laziness and just their beliefs, then I don't know, maybe a platform for free speech, like, no, I think it's still a good thing. I think we still need it. But right now, free speech is getting trodden on, and that's not good. I don't see that as good at all. So, as things stand, for the time being, for the foreseeable future, I will no longer be on Instagram or Facebook. As far as Parler, when it gets back up, I don't know. I might go over there, we'll see. Probably not for about a month or so, just because take a break. Like, honestly, most social media is just kind of caustic. Like, Ivan, what do you read? What do you want? Like, nothing. I read my buddy Eric Graves' Soldier Systems, his blog. My other buddy Matt, Jerking the Trigger. I read that blog just because I enjoy them. Usually don't even read them. I'll look at headlines. Maybe I'll see something I enjoy. And that's it. I don't watch anyone's videos. I don't do any of that. I would rather just focus on being a better version of myself and being a better father to my boys so they can grow up and be good young men. Like, that's my priorities, and things that draw from that, I have no time for. And so if there's aspects of social media that can be valuable, again, exchange of value, I'm probably game for it, like my videos. There's a fair exchange of value there, which is why I continue to do it. But Instagram, like, no. Parler, I might dip into, if there's no value, like, I'm not going to be there. Not worth my time. I don't know. Wish there was something more uplifting, but I will leave you with this. Like, I would encourage you to challenge your beliefs and think through them. Use thought. If you end up believing that, like, that's cool. But I would also encourage you to maybe use the metric of, would you die for that? I think that's probably a pretty good metric for beliefs. And if you wouldn't die for it, maybe it's just a thought, and hopefully you can articulate why you think that. But as always, thank you for joining us at kitbadger.com. Look forward to seeing you next time.